everybody, it's Miss Lopez from East Cary. I'm your assistant principal if you haven't met me before, but I am cooking at home today. Mr. B asked me in the culinary club to share something traditional. So I am not Latino or Hispanic, but my husband is, and so we do cook lots of Latino food at home, and one of the things that he enjoys is mole. And so I talked to Mr. B about what type of mole does he want me to make, and he's like, something quick and easy. I was like, no, we're gonna go traditional. And so traditional means that I've got all the ingredients ready, and we're gonna cook it from beginning to end, scratch, I guess you would best way to say it. But a couple other quick ways for you guys is that there is some cans, Doña Maria is one of them. I think I bought this at Harris Teeter and Food Lion, so you can easily grab it there. It's already pre-made, ready to go, so you can kind of just pour it in, add some liquid, and cook your chicken in it if you want. Another mole recipe, and I'll share it with Mr. B so he can get it out to you guys, is where instead you just toss all the ingredients into a blender, and you put it actually, the sauce that you blended, into a crock pot, and ultimately from there you stick it in the crock pot for a couple of hours, usually about 6 to 8, so that's a lot faster. But a traditional mole does take some time. It is a sauce, ultimately, that you put on top of chicken. It takes a little longer because you end up roasting and frying and cooking each individual ingredient inside of a broth, and then you blend it, and then you cook it with chicken. So this could take about an hour to cook. So I'm gonna speed through some of the things really quickly, talk about the ingredients, and then go from there. We're doing this in the pot right here with the lid on. I have some chicken already cooking. I'm gonna put a bunch of water, usually anywhere from 6 to 8 cups, sliced up some onion, garlic, a little salt and pepper, threw the chicken in there, and I'm gonna let it boil until it's cooked. Well, I am right now roasting tomatoes, 2 tomatoes and the 3 garlic. So while that's roasting, I'm gonna get started on the next step. Toast all of the chili pods. They do come dry, so this is a chili pod. I use 3 different types of chili. Okay, so I'm almost done roasting the chilies. And if you noticed, I turned the fan on because it's getting a little spicy in here. But they are toasting nicely. About 30 seconds or so on each side. They kind of almost blister up when you toast them, and you want to make sure that you don't burn them. And then when I'm done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right back into the pot right next to it. It's got chicken broth in there, and that's just soaking up, making it nice and soft, so that when we go ahead and put it in the blender to blend it all up, it'll be ready to go. So, and now what I'm going to do too is I'm also going to add the whole tablet of Mexican drinking chocolate. We call it Abuelita because that's the brand. It makes delicious hot chocolate. And you're going to put it right into the pot here so it soaks up and kind of dries up, smooths out just a little bit. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to toast my spices. I am going to toast our peppercorn, coriander, cloves, sesame seeds, anise seeds, and that cinnamon stick that we have in there. So I put it all in there in my cinnamon stick. And I'm just gonna move it back and forth and get it kind of toasty, nice and warm. The next thing I'm going to toast is my sesame seeds. I actually need a lot of sesame seeds, 3/4 of a cup. So I'm going to dump that whole entire thing over there. Sesame seeds toast super fast. So same thing, just going to move them around. Sometimes it's easier with a spatula. You got to be really careful because you don't want to burn them. So now I've toasted up my seeds and they look a little browner than they were before. I'm going to put some of them into the blender and the rest I'm just going to put off to the side to use for a later time. So the next step after I toasted that is I'm actually going to fry up the rest of my ingredients. You can traditionally use lard, but I'm going to use vegetable oil. Just put a little vegetable oil. I'm going to make sure it warms up. You can probably see that it's even kind of hot. It's blistering, and I do have my heat on low. So where it's perfectly, we're going to go ahead and fry each individual ingredient. And after each individual ingredient of frying, I'm going to go ahead and add it to my pot. So in the raisins go. And what happens is these are going to plump right up. And once they're plumped right up, we're going to pop it into that pot. When I'm done, I'm going to put it into the pot once again with the chicken broth and the chilies and the chocolate. I'm going to make sure that I keep as much oil in the frying pan. And I'm going to begin frying my next ingredient, which is my almonds. So, toss those around, fry them, they'll get nice and brown. So I fried up my almonds. I'm going to continue to go ahead and put that in the pot. So I'm going to fry up the tortilla on both sides, and when I'm done with that, I'm going to rip it up and put it inside the blender. If you noticed already, I actually have my tomatoes in there. That's the red at the bottom, and the garlic because I was roasting that in the oven. So that finished up, and I already put it in the blender ready to go. Frying the side so it's golden a little bit. While you were frying up, if you need to add a little bit more oil, you're more than welcome to, or lard if you're using. The last thing that I need to fry up is some bread. I used French bread. You can use a bolillo. Really depends on what you have local, but you should try to use something pressed. That's done. We'll go ahead and get everything into the blender and move on to the next step. I'm going to put everything into here and I'm going to start blending it. A couple things to keep in mind that you're putting something really hot. So it could splatter and it can hurt a lot, but just be really careful. So I already got my seeds in there and all my spices, my roasted tomatoes and garlic is in there. I'm going to rip up my bread just in better chunks so it'll blend a little bit better. And my tortilla that I fried up, I'm going to go ahead and rip that up. And then I'm going to go ahead and pour everything that was in that pot. Remember, I put all the chilies in there, the chocolate, the onions, the nuts, all of the stuff that I fried up and I put in there, and it's been soaking probably a good 20 minutes now, so I'm going to just slowly put that in there. And I'm going to go ahead and blend it. While I'm blending it, I'm going to probably stop and check to see if I need to add any more broth. Smells delicious, but it's still kind of thick, and I want to make it a little bit thinner because I'm going to go ahead and cook it down for about 20 minutes after this. So I'm going to add a little bit more chicken broth. So last but not least, I'm gonna go ahead and fry up my mole. I've blended it all to get all the chunks, but I'm gonna drop it into this frying pan. It's warmed up a little bit. You can see the ripples, and I'm gonna drop it right in there, and I'm going to let it cook for about 20 minutes until it's nice and bubbly. You can always add. I went ahead and it sat and simmered for about 20 minutes now. You notice it's slightly bubbling and it's still cooking on low. I went ahead and took the chicken that I was boiling and put it right into the mole, and I'll let that cook for about 5 to 10 minutes until it's all kind of mixed together. And then when I'm done, I'll serve it over a bed of rice. You can go ahead and make your rice any way that you want.